I see different changes happening at the time. If you look at Uber, he's trying to take over all the mobility services in terms of moving from I have to own my car to is it just driving as a service? If you look something at that, even autonomous driving or automated driving, is there a technology shift into that direction? Because then all of a sudden you say, okay, is it really the way that when I commute back and forth between work and home, that I really need my own car, or do I need some kind of a drive services? I mean, driving services are around with cabs, I don't know, and rental cars for decades already, and they have their niche, so to speak. The question if the technology and the consumer perception will change the behavior. And I think this is what we see if you look at Airbnb and Uber. There we see a better perception from the customers that they would say they are likely to buy a service rather than to own some material goods. So this will be heavily affect us as a car manufacturer. So the question is where do we position ourselves in terms if mobility becomes the key part and not the owning of a car anymore?
That's also a disruption to financial services. Mm-hmm. So if it's a community car, that disrupts insurance. So who's actually who's the insured anymore, mm-hmm. and who's actually buying the car? So that also disrupts the bank as well. So these have knock-on effects of disrupting business models all the way down through the value chain as well. So we look at when I came from just insurance, and obviously Bank of Queensland also has an insurance arm as well. So we look at those innovations, which are amazing, and also sort of have to really look and think, well, what's our business model to being pricing the risk changes. Yep. Who's the insured changes, who's actually refinancing going forward changes. So those have knock-on effects to business models going forward as well.
Jewelry is quite a traditional product, so the impact, I expect at least the impact will not be that high at the moment. But for sure for some areas, so the whole wearable industry is a huge opportunity for us to make these wearables nicer and more pretty. We also are in the watch industry, so therefore I also see a significant impact with all these smart devices and smart watches in this area. We definitely expect also a huge impact in the speed which the consumer expects. So I'm pretty sure that we have to react faster on changes in designs, taking up feedback from the markets and to be faster than with new product on the market. In this area, definitely technologies like 3D printing and so on helps us a lot. So we already achieved a significant reduction of the production design phase. With 3D printing to have prototypes which are already also able to cover with metal and so on and so forth. So speed.
How do you keep your organizations agile and responsive to change in light of different kinds of startups, for example, like Lending Tree, or in the world of 3D printed pans? How do you respond to that kind of stuff and keep your organizations on the cutting edge?
The technology is much easier. It's culture. That's the harder one. It's really to make a really agile organization is culture. So you have to really get the belief that it's possible, the art of the possible, and then you need to create the operating model that clears the blockages, and that's around creating sort of the risk appetite, the governance processes, the decision making frameworks, those type of things. Then you start to get into the architectural sort of models that you have, the design teams, the release management, those sort of blockages. And then you get down into, you know, the partnerships. You know, do you have really strong, strategic partnership models in your organisation? The maturity of that. Then you get into sort of then you get into the machine, and then the fun begins.
Fully agree. And there is not everything in the organization needs to be agile, or well, as agile, maybe put it that way. And I think if you put it on a continuum, right? I think consumer facing, right? That part of the organization has to work maybe at an hourly basis or a weekly basis, daily basis. Then you have parts more on the compliance, finance. Okay, that goes at a slower pace. Now all of it moves, right? So all of it moves faster, right? It doesn't all have to move at the same time, and then it really becomes more of the culture. And how do you reshape how you do governance and the networking and all that, right? The bimodal IT or two-speed IT or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's two-speed; it's multi-speed IT,
Yep.
right? But it needs to evolve in that way, and that's a challenge, right? Because we have been pushing on our organization for years or decades to do it a certain way, right? And now at the pace it's changing, especially within established companies. You need to rapidly evolve how IT works. Right, and again, it's not all or nothing; it's an evolution going forward.
The one concrete measure which we tried to implement is a road mapping process. So putting together experts from the businesses and from IT with the target to discuss the projects, initiatives for the next 2 to 3 years, and this is involving, changing. It's a discussion forum, a platform to think about changes in the world, in the technology, in the company, with the consumers. What will be the impact on our organization? And the important thing is that there's a frame, that there is a process behind. Which fosters a little this agility.
Yep. And ensuring that the total organisation is aligned to the external customer outcome. So you have to have a very much an understanding of that's the customer centricity. So if everybody's aligned to that outcome, everybody's focused on that as the productivity gain in the customer experience, that personalisation experience, you can mobilise towards that, and you get the whole emotion of the organisation to that outcome. Everybody can change the culture.
Brilliant.